When Apple says something is thinner, most people think they just mean lighter, prettier, and more stylish. But with iPhone Air, thin just isn't a measurement, it's a statement. It's Apple telling us what the future of the iPhone looks like. And to understand why this phone exists at all, we need to look deeper. Why Apple made it, why it matters, and where all this might be leading. By now, you've probably seen all the headlines and hands-on videos. Everyone knows iPhone Air is Apple's thinnest iPhone ever. It's bigger than the standard iPhone 17, slots in just under the Pro, and it's priced right in the middle. None of that is breaking news, but let's pause on what that actually means. Apple didn't just trim a few millimeters off an existing model. They rebuilt the entire internal layout of the Air so it can carry that thinnest ever badge. That decision wasn't just about hitting a spec sheet, it was about creating a feeling. When you pick it up, you instantly notice the weight difference, the balance in your hand, even how it slips into a pocket. That's not a feature you see on Apple's website, but it is one that totally sells this phone. So yes, you already know the Air is thin, light, and premium, but what's worth paying attention to is why Apple wanted a phone like this at all. Because once you see the Air in the bigger picture, it's not just another option in the lineup, it's Apple reshaping the story of the iPhone itself. But with that, there are trade-offs. Battery life doesn't match the Pro. The camera system is good, but not nearly as versatile as what you get with the higher-end models. And there's less room for cooling, so the phone might get warmer during use. These compromises, they're not really mistakes. They're actually deliberate. Apple is prioritizing how this phone feels in your hand over the raw specs. Apple doesn't launch new iPhone categories on a whim. Every addition to the lineup is calculated, strategically, technically, and financially. And the iPhone Air, it's no exception to that. And to understand why it exists, we have to look at 3 different levels. For years, Apple has split the iPhone by screen size: Standard, Plus, Pro, and Pro Max. But eventually, that big versus small idea kind of stopped being meaningful. Most people seem to want a larger screen, and the Plus is kind of redundant. The iPhone Air, though, solves that problem by reframing the middle of the lineup. Now you have 3 distinct philosophies. There's the base iPhone for value, the Pro for maximum capability, and the Air for design and feel. This creates cleaner lanes for customers to choose from, and cleaner lanes means fewer skip purchases and fewer confused customers leaving for Android. Look around at the market. Samsung is betting big on foldables. Google is leaning into AI software, and Chinese brands are racing on aggressive pricing and crazy new features. Apple, however, it's playing the long game. They're not rushing into foldables. Instead, they're using the extreme thinness to show that they can still define the conversation in industrial design. The Air is kind of Apple flexing, saying we don't need a fold to prove innovation. We can do it by making just another iPhone. It just happens to be the world's thinnest iPhone, and it makes it feel like you're in the future. This is where the Air really shines for Apple. Hardware, it's Apple's cash cow. The iPhone upgrades are the engine that make Apple run. Chips are so fast now that most people don't need a new phone every couple years. Cameras are excellent across the board no matter which model you have. Battery life has plateaued at all day. So how do you convince someone with, an iPhone 15 or 16 to upgrade? Well, you change the silhouette. You make the phone look and feel so different in the hand that it creates an emotional pull. That's exactly what the Air does. It resets the design language just enough to spark the "I want that" feeling. Real quick, before we continue, I want to thank this video's sponsor, Kinsta. Kinsta is rated the #1 provider of managed hosting by G2, and they give you a ton of features and options that make using them that much better. They can help migrate your site over, so that is super easy and taken care of. They also offer something really important, which is 24/7 live support. You're actually talking to a real person. So if a problem ever does come up, well, you could just ask them and they will help you out and get it fixed quickly. And Kinsta is trusted and used by over 120,000 companies. So you know that their product can be trusted. Plus, they were rated #1 in WordPress hosting by G2. And they outranked 357 other companies to get that title. But they get to that position for a reason, because, well, they deliver on what they offer. For example, you can get up to 200% faster performance on your sites when using Kinsta, and you get great security like enterprise level firewall and an SLA-backed uptime guarantee of up to 99.99%. And so with Kinsta, you have a site that works, is easy to use, and gives you great performance. So if you want to check this out or learn more for yourself, I'll leave a link down below, or you can use this QR code on screen. With this, you can get your first month free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. So check out the link, scan the code, and see if Kinsta is right for you. Notice the pricing strategy. The Air sits neatly between the base iPhone and the Pro. It's not the cheapest, but it's close enough in price to tempt most people upward from that entry level. And for those considering a Pro, but not exactly wanting to shell out the full amount, well, the Air is a rather good compromise. Thin, modern, premium without being most expensive. Either way, Apple wins because you're paying more than the base, and that's margin magic. And there's also the Air branding itself. I mean, historically, when Apple attaches that word, it signals a pivot in their devices, something thinner, something lighter. Think of MacBook Air, iPad Air. It has reshaped those lines. And both carry strong sales margins because they're aspirational without being top of the line. And that's exactly the role the iPhone Air is built to play in. It's the aspirational middle. And those middle products often generate the healthiest profits. So why did Apple make the iPhone Air? Because they needed to clarify the lineup, counter the competition, and protect their margins. But underneath all of that, the real reason, it's emotional. Specs fade, benchmarks disappear, but how the device feels, that sticks. And the iPhone Air is Apple betting that the feel is worth paying for. So here's a bigger question. Why does that even matter? Well, think about your daily life. A thinner, lighter phone, I mean, it can change behavior. It's easier to slip in your pocket, easier to hold for hours while scrolling. It's subtle, but it does change how you feel about the phone every single day. And culturally, the Air, I mean, it's instantly recognizable. It's a silhouette that is a new status marker. That's not just marketing. That's part of how Apple products circulate in the world. People see the design before they ever ask about specs. And for a certain kind of customer, people who want pro-level smoothness but don't want the bulk of a Max, well, this is the sweet spot. The Air says you don't need the absolute best camera. You need a phone that disappears until you need it. The iPhone Air, it's not just a new product, it's a signal. Apple rarely tips its hand, but when they introduce a new category like this, it's almost always laying the groundwork for something bigger. So the real question is, where does this take us? Most major reports suggest that Apple's first foldable is on track for the second half of this decade, and not waiting much longer, it's coming soon. And the rumored design looks a lot like two iPhone Airs joined together. And if that's true, well, the Air is more than just another model. It's the dress rehearsal for Apple's foldable. By normalizing ultra-thin iPhones today, well, Apple is preparing us to accept a device that folds in half tomorrow. The Air gets us comfortable with thinner batteries, re-engineered internals, and the trade-offs that might come with some radical thickness. That's not an accident. That's just a bridge to the next form factor. And this is exactly what we see from companies like Samsung. We have the Edge, which is their super thin model that leads to an even thinner and more remarkable Galaxy Z Fold 7. The Air also, like I said, reshapes Apple's entire lineup. And if it succeeds, well, Apple has even sharper lines to play with. The Pro can double down on capability with big cameras, advanced cooling, professional workflows, and the base iPhone can just stay that solid entry point with affordability, reliability, and approachability. And the Air can just be the design flagship, the one that says this is the future, even if it doesn't have every feature. That kind of lineup clarity, well, it's gold for Apple because it makes the customer journey simple. Do you want value, power, or feel? Pick your lane, no confusion, no hesitation. Apple is clearly pushing toward a future where the phone disappears as an object. Not literally, but functionally. Less bulk, less distraction, more seamless integration in your life. Not only in hardware, but even with software with liquid glass. The iPhone Air, well, it embodies that vision. It's a device that feels almost weightless. It's meant to fade into the background until the exact moment you need it. And that philosophy will carry forward into thinner laptops, thinner wearables, and eventually into a device that's not a phone at all. Glasses, headsets, maybe even implants if we want to think crazy. The Air is Apple's thesis in a physical form. Technology should vanish until it matters. When you look at iPhone Air, don't just see thin. Apple is saying the future of the phone isn't just about adding more, it's about taking away. Removing weight, removing thickness, removing friction until the phone almost disappears, literally. The question is, what would you trade for that? Battery? Cameras? Price? Because Apple has already answered, and their answer is iPhone Air.